Susan B. Anthony gave direction and rights to the people of the United States. She stood for women for today's actions. Because of Susan's actions, women have the right to vote in America. When she was fighting for this, women could not and did not vote. If women did vote, they were arrested, as Susan B. Anthony was. Susan paved the way for the 19th Amendment. Without her fighting and her politics, women would not have this right today. Susan plowed the road for women and took on a lot of hate from other people. Every other woman, even other women. Women at her time were not looked to for answers for anything in the government. Susan stood up and received the right for women to own items today and earned their own wages and manage them. Susan took on labor organizations and made them listen to women, convinced them that women have rights just as men do. Susan was a publisher as well. She published articles to fight for women, and her actions raised hope for women around the United States. Without her articles, today they could be different. Things could be different. Susan's articles made known of what was happening with politics, finances, and women's rights. Susan's pursuit for women's rights and equalization long stands the test of time. Today, Susan is looked to as a founder of the 19th Amendment for the United States Constitution. She introduced a Congress petition for women to be able to vote in the United States. From her actions in this struggling fight, women were granted the right to vote in 1920. As stated by Anthony, the Constitution states, "We the people, not we the white men." This was stated by Anthony in 2010. The preamble of the Constitution was for everybody, not just a certain people. Susan never got to see this action come to fruition. Susan believed in the right for women to vote, and she was even arrested by this. She was trying to vote in some elections, and she was arrested for her doing so. By this is showing women today the passion and how much she believed in something, and even to be arrested by her beliefs. A lot of people today wouldn't do this. There are some people that stand up for what they believe in to a point, but when this point is reached, people usually back down and go along with the courts and trials. This is what Susan stood for. She believed in it. She had passion with it. She went to the extreme to be heard by her generation and generations to come. Susan pursued the rights for women to owning land and be able to have change of their own earnings. Susan knew that this was a right for all Americans and should be able to accomplish. The women of the 21st century have rights of every American, and it started with Anthony. In the times of Anthony, women cannot own property or take charge of their own life. She pushed for labor organizations for equalization for rights for women. Today, women can look back at this and see the rights and equal labor in the shape and form of Anthony. Susan shaped the way for women. She stated that women must have a purse of her own, and how can this be as long as the wife is denied the right to her individual and joint earnings. Reflections like these cause me to see and really feel that there is no true freedom for a woman without the possession of her property rights. This demand must be made by petitions and legislation. Susan believed in women's rights. She started publishing an article called The Revolution. The motto was "Men and their rights and nothing more, women their rights and nothing less." This was a huge statement. She was stating that women wanted the rights and nothing less than this. She's demanded to be heard and listened to. Women today and people today need to follow by her actions and her thoughts and pursue them with Susan's passion. Anthony founded a society to work diligently to abolish slavery. With this action, she is showing women of today that anything can be accomplished. She founded a society because she was kicked out of a men's society and that didn't want women in this. She started the New York's Women's State Temperance Society. Along with this, Susan established, along with her co-worker, the American Equal Rights Association for equal rights of women and African Americans. Susan, for today's women, stands for justice and being treated equal. She worked diligently and tirelessly for her beliefs. Susan never saw many of her fights come to light. She passed away before her fruits were shared. People today look at Susan and think of her as a civil rights leader for all people of America, not just women and African Americans. Her push changed the United States and made them what they are today.